And good afternoon, Nationwide family. Mike Whitaker with Nationwide Marketing Group coming back to you today and joined by Chief Member Advocate, Mr. Tom Hickman. Tom, how are you? How's the family?
I'm well, Mike. How are you?
Doing good. Good. It's exciting time.
It is. Well, that's one way to put it. It is exciting. Yeah, I hope the message finds all of our Nationwide family safe and healthy first and foremost. But we're doing good. Been a lot of activity. Want to hopefully clear some stuff up here for the folks today, right?
Absolutely. This week we've had a lot of questions coming in from dealers. There's a lot of information to be soaked up right now. These programs are complex. They've come together very quickly. We've got all these acronyms floating around, PPPs, EIDLs with the SBA, and there's a lot of information to be taken in. And there's a lot of questions that have been asked. So how about we take the next few minutes and take some of those most popular questions, most frequent questions, biggest misunderstandings out there in the market right now, and let's dive into them. Sound good?
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's been a lot of legislation and a lot of heavy legislation. And we know that, our members and even ourselves, right, have to wade through that. Luckily, we've have some experts to help us. And I think what we've got here is a really good boiling down of really kind of the salient fact or fiction, true or false, is this right or not kind of things that we talked about. And so I think there are some really good questions here. We'll do our best to make it simple, understanding that we're not giving legal advice or business advice, but we're buying a marketing group, guys, not legislators, but I think this will be helpful. I know it has been in the folks that I've talked to and the folks you've talked to, so we thought we'd maybe shoot this and get it out there.
And that's one thing I'm glad you brought that up too. This is a great time to lean into expertise, lean into the folks associated with your business or folks you may have to go and create a relationship with. We had to do the same thing, finding people who truly are experts in these areas. Sure. And when you have those very, very deep questions, making sure you get those right answers is really, really important. So Tom, going to put you on the spot to start off. Have any dealers received their loan approvals or, more importantly, their funding from the PPP?
Well, good question, right? So we certainly do have and have spoken to a lot of dealers that SBA approvals are rolling. They're online. They're filling out their applications. They're getting their application confirmation. In some cases, contact loan officer information and getting confirmation of their requested amount. In that case, in some cases, but as of today, this morning, someone else was asking me today, I have not heard of anybody inside the network being funded yet. So I think funding's a little bit delayed. There's been plenty of press of, how choppy this thing was, but good news is it's open, enrollment's happening, and the process is moving along. So look, you asked me that, I'm going to ask you a question, and then maybe we'll just do it that way. What do you hear is taking so long? You're talking to a lot of members and a lot of people around this, right?
So we've talked to a lot of members, we've talked to banking experts, and there's really one piece of the puzzle that's still missing. So the program for PPP came together very quickly. As many members found out, their banks got the guidance for the lender the evening before the portal opened, and they were supposed to begin taking applications. Once that happened, the volume of applications has been immense. Every small business in America pursuing this, rightfully so. The SBA was understaffed. They were never built to serve this many businesses at once. And their technology, it's not RWS site on time style. It's not the latest and greatest. Yeah. So it's really put a tax on their technology. And that's held up a key document. And that document from our banking experts is still missing is the promissory note. Those promissory notes haven't been issued. And without the promissory note, the bank simply can't close the loan. So they're expecting those to be coming from the SBA very quickly. We don't have a date to say they're going to get there. But when you're wondering, how did I get an approval number and why isn't the money in the bank yet? The SBA in many cases has approved the loan, but they haven't issued the promissory note to the bank, which without that, the bank can't close the loan, can't fund the loan. So that's really that key piece that we keep hearing the banks are waiting for.
That makes sense. Okay.
It does. And now that's another thing that's really a strange part of this topic. So even though we haven't heard of anybody getting funded yet, we keep hearing that the funds are running out fast. What's the scoop on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah. There's a cap here, right? 350 billion on the first pass. And although there's a lot of conversation about that being raised or additional funding going in, it hasn't moved yet. It may not. So unless Congress allocates more money, we're going to get capped. So this is effectively for all intents and purposes, this is a first come, first serve situation, which is why I think you've seen us at Nationwide Marketing Group just pounding on the table and with a high degree of urgency. I think we sent, multiple videos about it. Get it in, talk to your banker, get it in, because right now it is going to be limited and it is going to be front of the line type behavior. And so that's the big question, right? It's like, what do I need to do? So I think we've done a pretty good job that, I'm hearing a lot of this, and I know you're hearing a lot of this. A lot of our retailers moved already in their business and made decisions in their business in advance of this. And there's a lot of questions about, well, if I furloughed an employee or I laid off an employee, or if I terminated team members because I had to, while I was waiting for all this, CARES Act and PPP come into place, did I disqualify myself? And I've heard that myself. I know you've heard it. How can we help answer that question?
So there's a really simple answer to that, Tom, and it's a really important question for a lot of dealers. There is absolutely nothing about having laid off an employee, terminated or furloughed an employee that would disqualify you from the PPP. So if you read the simple outline from the SBA on the program, they're actually allowing you to manage team size as needed up to April 26th. Now, with the speed that these loans are being funded, they haven't been funded yet. That may still be very necessary for some dealers. You can adjust team size as you see fit up until April 26th. So even if you've already had to lay off your entire team, you can still qualify for PPP. If you get approved for that, then you have that 8-week window. You have the option of bringing that team back to get back to full head count. So the guidance on reduction in team size really tied to the forgiveness aspect of this. That kicks in once the loan originates, but you still have until April 26th to make any needed moves. So legislators really took this into account as they put this program together, knowing that some folks had already had to act. There's nothing about having made a reduction in team size that in any way disqualifies you from applying for PPP.
Good.
Now,
Yep.
That said, one of the other questions that we've heard a lot, I know you've heard this several times, a lot of our dealers were able to go and apply for the SBA's emergency injury disaster loans. They were able to apply for those EIDLs. Now, if you apply for an EIDL, can you still apply for PPP?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people believe that if they've applied for one, that they can't apply for the other, and that actually is not correct. You can apply for both. Now, obviously, you can't double dip, right? You can't use the same funds for both of these. But if you applied for the SBA loans on the front side and then apply for PPP on the back side, that's fine. You can actually roll one into the other. You really need to talk to your banker about that. Hopefully, you've done that at the same banking establishment. I think that'd probably be the best practice there. But you have not disqualified yourself in any way, shape, or form if you've applied for one or not the other, or applied early, like we told you to, right, for the SBA, and then also applied for PPP at the same time. So that's fiction. You're not going to disqualify yourself. In fact, some might argue you should apply for both.
Yeah, they can certainly work together. And you're also right. Make sure that you're communicating really well with your banker.
That's right.
If you apply directly to the SBA for that EIDL, and then you're talking to your banker about your PPP, make sure that everybody's on the same page. Make sure they know. But it should work out really well having those working together.
Yeah. So I'm getting this a lot too. Our retailers are really resourceful, and Mike, this isn't Disney World, right? This isn't a situation where you can pay someone to get to the front of the line, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And Tom, that's been a hot topic this week, and it's really just a good word of guidance. If you're getting a phone call, if you're getting an email from an agent that's telling you for this fee, I can get you right to the front of the line on the PPP and help you get funded. If you're getting any communication along those lines, it's absolutely a scam. It's absolutely not legitimate. You want to deal directly with a banker or a well-known and recognized lending facilitator. They're not allowed to charge you fees here. There are no fees to the small business to apply for the PPP. So if somebody's telling you up front, hey, for $2,000, we'll get your application in and we'll slide you to the front of the line. As Tom said, it's not Disney World. There's no fast passes. You've got to just do these the standard and up way. If anybody's telling you anything different, they're giving you bad information. And that can not only cost you money, but it opens you up to all kinds of fraud when they say, hey, give us all this information. They now have all those tax documents. They've got everything on your business. And now we've got a whole nother issue. So make sure that you're going with a reputable bank, that you're dealing with people that are very, very legit.
And understand that you're dealing with a government. So it's like every other government experience. There is no way out. You must go through, right?
Yes, you must go through it, and it's not going to happen fast. That's the other thing that we know. Yeah. So we have to be mindful of that. Now, another really common question, once that application's in your hand and you start filling that out, is the topic of independent contractors. Mm-hmm. Can you include independent contractors in your payroll costs when you're applying for the payroll protection program?
No, you can't. They have to file on their own. So that one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
They've got the independent contractors have to file for PPP on their own. And so that leads to a question around, payroll costs, right? So fact or fiction, Mike, let's go full fact or fiction mode. Payroll costs exclude any compensation of employees that earn more than 100K a year. So 100K a year, they're out.
Thankfully, that's fiction.
Okay.
So it wasn't clear at first. The first couple rounds of guidance around this didn't make that perfectly clear, but now we have clear understanding. You can include that first $100,000 in annualized payroll cost. So if we had a team member that made 150, we're still going to be able to include that first 100. Now that extra 50 that they earned, that's not going to be included or counted in the PPP. Doesn't factor in for what we can borrow, doesn't factor in for what can be forgiven. It's almost like that never happened. But that first $100,000 can absolutely be factored into payroll costs for PPP. It brings up another really good point when you think about that as well. And that's when we start talking about those things on forgiveness. This is the only place where there's an exemption when it comes to reducing wages. We know that you have to maintain your FTEs, your full-time equivalents.
Yep.
And that's actually, on a side note, that's been another great question. What's the difference between my full and my part-time? An FTE it's a one full-time employee. It's a 40-hour week employee. So if you added up 2 20-hour week part-time employees, it's an FTE. If you added up 4 folks who work 10 hours a week, that's an FTE. You have to maintain those, and we have to maintain wages. But for somebody that's earning more than $100,000 a year, you are able to bring them to $100,000 a year even and not have any penalty on your forgiveness. So that's the only place where we know that there could be a wage reduction to help the business go forward that wouldn't impact the forgiveness of PPP. Those things that happen above 100K, not affected by the program at all. Now, we're using a lot of numbers here, Tom, so I'm going to throw one back at you. This is all about numbers and acronyms.
Yeah.
We have become very comfortable with those, and I'm going to factor fiction right back to you. So factor fiction. If I'm approved for an EIDL and I applied for the $10,000 grant advance, I should have that grant advance, that $10,000, within 3 days of applying.
Yeah. Sadly, that's not happening, right? And not going to happen. And I think it's important to understand, I can read the two paragraph explanation that our legal team gave us for this, but boiled down is these loans have been in place a long time, and they much like your conversation earlier about what they were built for. They were built for natural disasters, floods, tornadoes. They weren't built for pandemics of this size and this magnitude. So, from what we understand of the applications that have put in, only 4% have been approved and 1% have been not approved. So that means that 95% at this point haven't even been processed. So I would not expect that to happen. And look, this is a lot like, what you talked about earlier, just a crush of the weight of this has slowed down the system. So I would not expect that in that time frame. In fact, I would think it would be considerably longer at this point, and just plan to wait on that, and so, that kind of leads to our last question, I think, and it's important, because we've heard a lot of wait. This is going to take time. You need to be patient. There's some qualifying factors. You don't want to disqualify yourself. So a lot of people are going, and I answered this question yesterday from a member of ours and just said, did I miss the boat? Is it too late? Should I just give up and, do whatever I was going to do or try other funding source? Should I still try to participate? What would we tell them, Mike?
We tell them absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we're talking about the EIDLs. Doesn't matter if we're talking about PPP. If you haven't applied now, it's still not too late. Now, I know we said earlier that funding cap is going to be hit. It hasn't been announced as hit yet, which means there should still be some room in there. And the other side, if you're thinking, I missed the first round of funding, maybe. We don't know. But if there's another round of funding, there's a 99.9% probability that it too will be first come, first serve. Who was in line first? So the sooner you get in line, the sooner you can take advantage of the benefits of this for your business. And I've had some folks that say things like, I'm just not sure PPP is for me, or I'm not going to apply for PPP because you know what? We ended up doing okay in March and we started out okay in April.
Sure.
We still don't know what's going to happen. So the only thing they're asking that you certify is that your financial future in the business right now is uncertain. Quite frankly, what the world's going to look like a week from now is uncertain. What it's going to look like 2 weeks from now is uncertain.
Sure.
So even if you don't need the funds right now, you're in a very fortunate position because it doesn't appear anybody's getting the funds right now. But if you don't need them right now, you may need them in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. Go ahead and get your application in. It's the only way to be considered. So right now, as the world is still a very unsure landscape, make sure you're applying because that's critical that you have access to that if you need it. You don't have to take it. You may get it approved in a month and go, hey, we don't need it. That's your option as a business owner. But if you don't apply, then you won't get to consider that option when the time comes. Tom, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, always best to have a safety net, right? And you can apply for these, receive, been given approval and been, offered funding, and, God bless you if you don't need it, but certainly I think everyone should have the backstop, regardless of where you are financially, for where you are from a liquidity standpoint. It's well worth the process to get in and do it. So I know this video is longer than our normal videos, Mike. I appreciate you doing it with me. I feel like we've turned in, our normal jobs of, leading education and leading the group have turned into, reading legislation and debunking myths and turning into governmental agents. But I think it's really important, and these were the questions that we were hearing the most, that were alarming to us in some cases, the amount of misinformation that was out there. So part of our job is to put the facts in front of the folks and in front of our members and kind of debunk those myths and clear that out of the way. Unless you have anything else, I think I'm going to maybe wrap it up on this holiday.
The one thing I would add there, Tom, that's one thing that we're a very adaptive group. We're going to serve our dealers as, where, and how they need served. And that's what we've done through the past month. But one of those things that's at your disposal as a member, we've got an email address. It's really simple, ask@nationwidegroup.org. It goes to the entire team that's working on the coronavirus resource response. If you've got a question on one of these programs, you don't really understand the answer, we do have experts that we're tapping into. It's not like Tom and I are sitting here coming up with the answers to these. We're leaning into the experts. This is not what we do for a living, but we also know that we have experts who can. And we'll do the same thing for you. So if you have a question, it may have already been asked by another member. We're happy to get you that answer. If you have a question that nobody has asked yet, we'll reach out to our experts and we'll get you an answer, because this isn't a time to trust the future of your business to what somebody said on Facebook or what you might have heard through, I'm going to say it, Tom, through Cousin Bobby. Cousin Bobby may have heard it. Doesn't make it right. If you want expert advice, expert explanations, let us know. We'll do everything we can to get you the answer. Don't trust the future of your business to what you heard on Facebook.
That's right. That's fair. All right. Well, that's probably going to be a pretty long video, but I think it'll be good. And then I think the last thing from our side is, we'll continue to tell you that, we hope everyone's safe. We hope everyone's healthy. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your extended family and your business, take care of each other. We will get through this. We woke up this morning one day closer to the end of this whole thing, and one day closer to, what's next for us and a better world for all of us. So I would like to wish everyone a happy holiday weekend. Be with your family, hug them extra tight this weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Only hug your family extra tight. Nobody else.
That's right.
Guys, be well. We'll see you again soon.
Right. See you later, man.